Guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Before we start the video, I just want to say thank you so much for the continued support. This is the 9th video that we're on right now, and I just could not expect the support that you guys have been giving the channel. We're at 154 subscribers and counting, so thank you so much. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. So within this top secret box, there's a very special DIY keyboard kit that I've waited for some time to finally build. This is the UM-70 by Merge, and it's really not your average keyboard. I'll get to why in a second, but first, let's run down what's inside the box. So starting off from top to bottom, you get the left and right PCB, top cover, rear cover, side panel, rotary encoder knob, left and right RF4 plates, OLED screen PCB, OLED screen, 4-pin sockets, 4-pin cables, RGB LEDs, 100 of them actually, 80 hot swappable sockets, and you get some screws and whatnot. Oh, and you get rubber feet as well too. So for this build, I decided to go with the EV01 linear switches only because they match the color theme of the build. Listen, I know you can't see the switches when you put the keycaps on, but they look cool, so f off. EV01s are made with a PC top housing, palm stem, and nylon bottom. The spring is also gold plated at 63.5 grams. Again, nothing special, but cool. For the stabilizers, I chose to go with the Durock V2 screw-in stabilizers. In my opinion, they're some of the best on the market, so, you know, I went with 5 of them for this build. And lastly, the keycaps. We'll get to them later because I don't want to spoil anything, but these are pretty cool. So these are all the items you need to build this keyboard. I'll just say I had a lot of fun building this keyboard, but yeah, we'll get into it. I'll just say there's a reason why the title is named the most difficult keyboard I've had to build, because yeah. So the case itself is pretty cool, and I've yet to see in other group buys, mostly because they consist of aluminum cases or some sort of other plastic. But this one is a 3D printed case, and it's a PLA 3D printed case. So if you look at it closely, it has some sort of glimmer, and that's different filaments that are within the print itself. It's actually really cool. It's very solid. I'm so surprised. And it has a unique sound to it. We'll do a sound test obviously later on in the video, but be prepared for that. So if you guys already know, this is a split 65% keyboard and naturally has 2 PCBs, the left and right. This is the right one. The left one is actually known as the master PCB because when you plug it into the computer will register either PCB as the left one. So you can plug in the right one and it'll still register as the left master PCB unless you change it through different, through its codec or whatnot. So the group buy for this keyboard didn't drop until early this year, I believe around April or May, and then production after that. So I didn't end up getting this keyboard until around early September, and that's only a couple months. And for a keyboard of this caliber, with all the parts and whatnot, that's pretty incredible considering other keyboards would be about a year out. I've waited longer for keycaps, honestly, than this keyboard. So kudos to Merge for the production and all that stuff. And even on the Discord and on his website, he put out a lot of updates in terms of production and if there's any delays or whatnot. So the communication there was just priceless, I would say. And speaking of Discord, the UM-70 channel in Merge's Discord was such a lifesaver. Whenever anyone had any issues or troubleshooting or whatnot, you just throw it in there and Merge would chime in whenever he could, which is really cool. I don't think I've ever built a keyboard or anything for that matter that had the own designer or the creator of the product chime in and help you out with whatever problems you're having. So again, kudos to Merge. That was awesome. And I could not have built this without his help because I'm such a noob. So yeah. All right, enough talk about the keyboard. Let's get into the build. So even though things look like they're going great, normal process of soldering, it gets a little bit more trickier after this because these LEDs are very, very small and it was very difficult for me to have them on the board and solder them at the same time. So I only have 2 hands, so I can only do as much as possible. And this is my first time soldering LEDs to a PCB. Thank God there was 100 of them because I Yeah, I messed up a lot of them. So thanks for that. Because the nature of solder and how conductive it is, if you take two joints and you solder too much and they start to connect, that's what's known as bridging. And bridging is bad because it will short circuit the board and it won't work. Not to say it won't work permanently, it just won't work. You just have to redo that joint again. So if you can see in the video here, I did that. I put too much solder and I bridged a couple joints here. And the way you test this out is by plugging into the computer, and if the LEDs light up, you're good. If they don't, something went wrong. Either they're bridged or the LED is faulty. And at this point, I didn't have any solder wick to redo those joints. So I basically had to just put everything back in the bag and just wait until my Amazon order came, because there was no other way I can redo this whole thing. But guys, I'm new. I don't know any of this. So when I had that issue, I didn't know what to do. So I went to the Discord hoping that somebody had the same problem. Somebody did, but they just didn't follow up with how they fixed it. So I posted the issue. Merge was nice enough to help me with the issue. And then I found out that the LEDs are in some sort of sequential order with a group being on each row or whatnot. And if one LED in that row is faulty, or the starter LED in that row is faulty, then that means that you have to kind of like redo that LED and then hope that every other one in sequential order kind of works. So yeah, I know. Now, naturally, a keyboard of this size and magnitude and complexity has a nice comprehensive guide. And that's something that the UM-70 does have, but I feel like it's lacking in areas that are more, or that need more detail. And by detail, let me give you an example here. So remember the LEDs that I was just talking about and how they have to be soldered in sequential order. And if one of them is faulty, you have to go back to the first one and make sure that that's soldered correctly or not bridged or not faulty. Yeah, that was barely touched upon in the guide. And when you have 68 LEDs that you have to solder on, you know, you kind of like a little bit more detail, and specifically which sets and what order the sets go in. And like I said, luckily Merge was in the Discord to help us all out. A lot of us did have this same issue where we would solder all the LEDs and a whole row wouldn't light up or half of it wouldn't light up. And luckily we just took a picture and Merge was able to circle the ones that, you know, we should resolder or whatnot. But I feel like that could have been in the guide, and that whole issue of us troubleshooting could have been avoided if it was explained better in the guide. But other than that, the guide was well written. I think a lot of it comes down to soldering knowledge and soldering skills, because a lot of the parts that you're dealing with, especially the LEDs, are very, very small, and you need a lot of soldering skill and precision to actually put them on the board. And if you f that up, like I did a lot of the time, you're gonna run into a lot of frustrations with this. And so I would say this is definitely not a beginner kind of project here. This is more of an intermediate project. But if you are a beginner and want to be kind of ballsy with your projects, this is definitely one to put yourself or to test yourself, because you will learn a lot. Trust me, you will learn a lot from this. So after soldering all the parts of the board, I was able to test it, and I can't stress the importance of testing, because you get to see the live results. And if you did something wrong, it's instant, as opposed to just doing everything in one shot and testing later, which kind of is what I did. So don't do that, that's bad. So that's it for the toughest portion of this, which was the soldering. Let's get into assembling so I can show you guys the final build of this keyboard. Somebody call Guinness, because that might have been the longest B-roll on YouTube ever, so I might hold the world record at this point. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And here's the actual keyboard itself. I didn't show you the back, but here's the back. But super nice, very light. The precision with the 3D printing is incredible. Like, you guys can't even, like, look, you don't even notice that it's a split keyboard, right? And then boom, it's just split. Dare I say this is the dopest, if not the coolest keyboard in my collection. And one of the things that really sticks out to me is just the, again, 3D printed housing. It's phenomenal. It is so precise. I was very skeptical when getting this at first, but after seeing it and the finished product all together in one, man, this looks better than some aluminum cases. And as mentioned before, the keycaps. So these are Octopus PBT keycaps by Polycarbs, available at kineticlabs.store. I'll put a link below so you guys can check it out if you want. But these are really nice. They're awesome. They're not my actual keycaps that I wanted to put on this board specifically because the color, there's too much purple on it. But for the time being, I think this fits right. I like it. It feels really nice. These are double shot PBT keycaps with clear legends, so it just looks really good. But the actual keycaps I wanted to put on this board are different colored. They're green. They're called Cat Cyberspace, and they're still in production. Group buy was, I think, earlier this year as well, so I'm still waiting on that. Haven't heard any word yet, but hopefully at the end of this year. But those are very nice, and it's neon green, and they highlight the board really, really well. So I cannot wait for that. I'm going to put an update once I get out those and they come in. I'll put an update on my Instagram or Twitter. So if you guys don't follow me, be sure to do that. You know, if you want to check it out, because it's going to be really nice. So the software that you're able to use with the keyboard itself is called VIA or VIA, and it is very convenient. Probably one of the most convenient third-party or custom keyboard softwares out there that I've ever tested before. This is just pretty straightforward. The layout of the UI is very clean, very nice, and easy to use and understand, actually. And one of the cool things that this has is also a key tester as well. So when you're building the keyboard and before you start assembling and putting the box together and whatnot, it's easy and very convenient to test your keyboard out. You got the layout, the macros, the lighting as well, which has a number of different effects you can cycle through, which is really cool. And then you can also load different profiles in too, which is really cool. Unfortunately, you're not able to control the OLED display through VIA, but I know that Discord people are posting their own homebrew options, which you can explore as well. And speaking of the OLED display, in terms of it being a nice little feature, there's really nothing you can do with it aside from it displaying useful information, such as which layer you're on, if you have caps locks on, if you have number lock on, scroll lock, but it does actually give you your words per minute. It's not really super accurate, but it's a really cool little feature that they put on there as well. So all in all, aside from this being the most frustrating and most difficult keyboard I've ever built, I do really think it's a very nice keyboard. I really appreciate it in its build and build quality, and I do think it is a showpiece and a conversation starter. I'm glad to have this in my arsenal for sure, and I actually cannot wait for the future of what else Merge does with other keyboards and other 3D prints as well. But of course, I'm not gonna leave you guys without a sound test, because what is a keyboard build without listening to the final product as a whole? Keep in mind that these switches are unlubed and the keyboard and the housing itself are 3D printed. So it's gonna have a different, unique sound, like I said before. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and enjoy the sound. Turn up the volume.